They told us they weren't taking the kids. 4 days later, they did. With those words, Larry Whittaker opens a window into decades of struggle, love, loss, and betrayal in the place he's called home since 1959. This is not just his story. It's the story of every family fighting to hold on when the world turns against them. The afternoon light cuts across the valley, hitting the old trailer that stood for generations. Paint peeling, porch sagging, but still standing like its owner. Larry sits on the steps, hands clasped, eyes searching the distance. I've been here near my whole life. My daddy bought this land in '59. Said it'd be our place forever. We didn't have much, but we had this dirt, these trees. You can't buy that kind of peace, you know. He looks toward the far end of the field, where a white oak stretches into the sky. That's where I built my first swing. Me and my brother tied a rope up there, went flying till Mama hollered for supper. It's funny how things stick in your mind like it just happened yesterday. Old photographs fade in, black and white snapshots of a simpler time. A young man in overalls beside a woman holding a baby. A farmhouse in the background. The pictures tremble slightly, like they've been handled too many times. Neighbors remember those years differently, but they all say the same thing. The Whittakers were good people. Hard workers. Quiet folks who kept to themselves. His daddy worked sunrise to sundown, says one old friend. Never owed nobody. When he passed, that land got tricky. Paperwork lost, signatures missing, folks coming out of nowhere claiming ownership. Another voice adds, "You don't see it till it happens to you." One day you're sitting on your porch. Next day somebody from another state's telling you what's yours and what ain't. Larry remembers the day the letter came. The envelope was thin, almost unremarkable, but the words inside changed everything. I was watching TV when I opened it. Said something about property records. Ownership dispute? I didn't even understand half of it. I thought it was a mistake. But then people started showing up, out-of-towners, lawyers, some lady from Carolina, telling me this land wasn't ours. Said it belonged to some company now. He shakes his head. How can somebody just come in and tell me I don't own my own home? My mama and daddy's names are on that paper. I found it. It's old, yeah, but it's real. He goes quiet for a moment, his voice softer when he speaks again. They don't see what it means to us. This place, it ain't just land. It's where we were born, where we buried our people, where we built everything we ever had. In his hands he holds a folded, faded deed. The ink has bled, some words vanished, others barely readable. His cousin once said he keeps it in a box under his bed like it's gold. I keep that paper close, he says. It's the only thing left that says we belong here. Time shifts. The house, once alive with laughter, grew quiet after his father passed. Then his wife's laughter filled it again for a while. In 2001, I come back here. Me and my wife moved back after being gone. I had my heart attack in 2004, February. She stayed with me through it all. Past that same year, January 14th, 4 months after my surgery, he stops. The silence stretches. His hand trembles slightly as he breathes in. She's still here, though. Right here with me. I think about her every day. Sometimes I hear her talking when I'm out hanging laundry. That's how I know she ain't gone, not really. Neighbors nod when they speak of her. She was the glue, one woman says softly. You could tell he ain't been the same since she passed. After she was gone, everything just started falling apart. The welfare visits began not long after. Official cars pulling up, polite knocks, calm smiles. They said they were there to help. They said they just wanted to check in. They came saying they just wanted to make sure everything was okay. I told them the kids were fine. They smiled, said it's just paperwork. Then 4 days later they come back, said they were taking the kids. Said it was temporary. Said they'd bring them back. Never did? He looks away, voice thick. They lied. They said one thing, did another. I tried everything, signed papers, made calls, went to meetings. But every time it was another wall. They don't care about families like us. We're not rich. We don't got lawyers. We don't got fancy names. All we got is memories. And they can't take that from me no matter what paper they wave in my face. A photograph appears, Larry and his wife in the early 1980s, smiling with a baby between them. Their happiness looks untouchable, like it could last forever. My wife would have fought him harder than I did. She was stronger than me that way. But when you lose someone like that, you lose your fire. Takes years to get it back. He looks down at his hands. Sometimes I walk around the house at night thinking I hear her voice. Sometimes I hear the kids laughing out back. Then it's just quiet again. Too quiet. A neighbor adds, he keeps that place clean. Still talks about rebuilding. Says he wants to make a home for the grandkids again. That's what keeps him going. I just want a place for my grandkids to come home to. That's all I ever wanted. His tone shifts, grief giving way to anger. But they made it sound like we did something wrong. Saad, we couldn't take care of our own. That's not true. We took care of each other better than anyone. Another voice joins in. What happened to Larry? That ain't just one man's story. It's happening everywhere. Folks losing homes, losing kids, 'cause somebody higher up thinks they know what's best. Larry stands, his eyes scanning the field behind his house, land that once held his father's plow. That's where Daddy used to work. Right there by that fence. Every spring. I still see him sometimes, just for a second, out the corner of my eye. Like he's making sure I ain't given up yet. He smiles faintly, his words trembling. He wouldn't have wanted me to quit. He'd tell me, son, they can take everything you got, but they can't take what's in your heart. And I try to remember that. Every day. His cousin says quietly, Larry's heart's too big for what's been done to him. But he keeps talking. If you don't, nobody will know the truth. People talk, Larry continues. They say things that ain't true online in town. They say we're trouble, that we don't take care of what's ours. But if they walked one day in my shoes, they'd see. It ain't about trouble. It's about trying to hold on. He looks up at the camera, eyes tired but steady. This is my home. My family's home, and I'll keep fighting till they put me in the ground. For a moment, there's nothing but the hum of cicadas, the creak of wood, and the wind pressing through the trees. Then, faintly, laughter echoes, the memory of children at play. You can't kill history, a neighbor says. You can bury it under paperwork, change the names, build something over it, but it's still there. The truth always finds its way back. The screen fades to black dot. The camera opens on the same land. Fog rolling through the valley. The morning still heavy with silence. A rooster crows somewhere in the distance. The trailer sits unchanged, weathered but unyielding. Larry steps outside with a cup of coffee in his hand, looks toward the fence line, and exhales like a man still measuring the distance between hope and heartbreak. They told us to trust them, he says quietly. Said they were here to help. But help don't take your family from you. Help don't leave you standing in your own yard, watching everything you love drive away. He takes a sip, his hand shaking just enough to reveal the weight of it all. That was the day I stopped believing what people said and started listening to what they did. The story of what happened next spread slowly, first in whispers through the town, then through Facebook posts, videos, and eventually headlines that read like accusations instead of compassion. Family dispute in Appalachia? Sparks welfare investigation. Whittaker. Property under review, state agencies decline comment. But behind the headlines was a man trying to make sense of his life being rewritten by strangers. I ain't no criminal, Larry says, voice rising slightly. They made it sound like I was doing something wrong. All I wanted was to keep my family together. That's all. Neighbors recall the confusion, the unmarked cars, the clipboards, the polite but distant officials who came and went like clockwork. They called it a routine welfare check. They said it was temporary. But nothing about it felt temporary. They smiled the whole time, one woman recalls. Told Larry not to worry. Told the kids it'd just be for a few days. Then they packed up and left with them like it was nothing. Larry remembers the smallest details, the squeal of the car tires on gravel, his sister crying in the doorway, his nephew clutching a stuffed bear that didn't make it into the back seat. They said we'd see them in a week, he whispers. A week turned into a month. A month turned into never. For a while, Larry tried to stay quiet, hoping the system would fix itself. He filled out forms, called offices that never answered, left messages that were never returned. Each time he called, someone new picked up asking the same questions, giving the same rehearsed answers. They said, "We're reviewing your case." They said, "We'll get back to you." They never did. Every time it was a new name, a new voice, like they wanted me to give up. He did in single quotes T. When local reporters began asking questions, doors started closing faster. Government offices declined interviews. Records went missing. Statements contradicted each other. Somebody was lying, Larry says. And I wasn't the one lying. By then, Larry's story had started circulating on social media. A video clip, shaky, filmed by a neighbor, showed him standing in his yard, shouting as welfare officers pulled away. The caption read, "Man says state took his family without notice." Within days, the clip had been shared thousands of times. Comments poured in, some calling him a hero, others accusing him of hiding something darker. The internet took sides. But Larry stayed right where he always had, on that same patch of land, waiting for the truth to surface. "I didn't ask for none of that," he says. "Didn't want cameras, didn't want news people." But they came anyway. They asked questions, but they didn't listen. They already had their story written. His cousin Betty remembers how strangers started driving by, taking pictures. He'd be sitting on the porch and cars would just stop. Folks with cameras hanging out the window. Some yelled things. Some cried. It got weird, fast. Larry's name became a headline, his life a public debate. They called me crazy, called me a liar, said I was making it all up. I don't got the money to fight back like them. I just got the truth. He leans forward, elbows on his knees. And I ain't letting go of it. The documentary pauses on that sentence. Then cuts to archival images, official forms with blacked-out names, property maps showing overlapping boundaries, letters stamped void and transferred. A voice from a local official plays faintly in the background. "We cannot comment on ongoing investigations. All procedures were followed according to state regulation." Then silence again. They hide behind those words, Larry says. Regulation? Procedure? It's how they wash their hands of it. Neighbors and friends remember the days that followed. Larry became withdrawn, quiet. He still took care of the yard, still fixed things that didn't need fixing. He kept the lights on for people who weren't coming back. One friend says, "Every morning I still make coffee for 2, Larry admits. "Don't even realize I'm doing it sometimes. Just habit, I guess. When you lose so many people, you start talking to ghosts just to fill the quiet." His hands trace the rim of the coffee cup. "Sometimes I think about leaving. But then I look out there, and I see my daddy's footprints, my wife's garden, my kids' toys buried in the dirt. You can't walk away from something like that. You just can't." But walking away wasn't the problem. Holding on was. The property dispute escalated when a construction company arrived one summer morning with a survey team. They claimed they were contracted to develop the adjacent land, but the stakes they placed fell inside. Larry's fence line. I told them they had the wrong spot. They said no, their maps were right. Said this whole back part didn't belong to me no more. I laughed at first, thought it was a mistake. Then I saw the papers. A thick folder marked Acquisition Parcel 14B listed coordinates that matched his yard. They had my name on it. He says, "My name, and still they said it wasn't mine." He walked to the courthouse that afternoon, the old deed folded in his back pocket, ready to show anyone who'd look. But the clerk told him something that stopped him cold, she said. "That deed ain't in the system anymore." I said, "What you mean it ain't in the system?" She said it was replaced by an updated record years ago. But I never signed nothing. Never sold nothing. Never gave nobody permission. He pulls the deed from a box, edges frayed, paper brittle. They can erase a record, but they can't erase paper. My daddy's name is right there. Friends rallied around him. The local church started a fundraiser to help him hire a lawyer. We thought maybe if someone official spoke up, they'd have to listen, Betty recalls. But once you start going against the state, It's like fighting fog, can't catch it, can't hold it, but it still chokes you. Larry's lair, a small-town attorney named Harris, filed motion after motion, each one denied for lack of evidence or procedural discrepancies. They said the deed was too old, said the signatures weren't verifiable, said we didn't have the right documents. But how you gonna say that when my daddy's hand wrote his own name on it? You can see the pen marks. The frustration seeps through his voice, years of disbelief condensed into one exhausted sigh. They want me to quit. That's what this is about? Wear me down till I give up. But he didn't. Instead, he started documenting everything. He wrote down every phone call, every visit, every piece of mail. His notebooks filled up fast, names, dates, notes scrawled in shaky handwriting. If they want to say I'm lying, he says, I'll have proof. Through all of it, the house stayed the same. The same porch light, the same gravel road, the same stubborn silence. One evening, as the sun set behind the ridge, Larry sat on his porch and spoke softly, almost to himself. You know what hurts the most? It ain't losing the land. It's losing the people. When they took those kids, they didn't just take them from me. They took them from where they come from the soil, from their name. A neighbor nods. This ain't just about property. It's about belonging. You take that from a man, you take his roots. Larry looks up, eyes glinting in the fading light. They think people like us don't matter 'cause we ain't got money. But this land, this dirt, it's our history. My daddy bled in that field. My wife planted flowers by that window. My family lived and died right here. You can't put a price on that. The screen lingers on his face, lined, worn, resolute. The wind stirs the trees behind him, carrying the faint echo of children's laughter that once filled the yard. They said they were helping, but all they did was take. They said we'd be okay, but we ain't been okay since. He sets the coffee cup down beside him and stares into the distance, where the survey stakes still stick out of the earth like splinters. They can take the land. They can take the kids. But they can't take the truth. And I'm gonna keep telling it till someone listens. The shot widens, the valley stretching beyond the Whittaker home. Quiet, beautiful, and scarred, because in that silence lies the heart of it all, not just the loss of a family, but the loss of faith in a system that promised to protect them, and yet, in that same silence, there's something else, defiance. The unbroken voice of a man who refuses to let his story be rewritten. The first time Larry's story went viral, it wasn't because of a news network or a government statement. It was because of a stranger with a camera, a local videographer, passing through town, stopped to talk to him one afternoon. The man filmed for less than 10 minutes. A simple clip of Larry standing beside his trailer, holding the old deed and telling his story. He uploaded it to YouTube that night with the title, "They Took Everything From Me." By morning, the views had exploded. Thousands of comments filled the page. Sympathy, outrage, disbelief. Strangers from all over the country wanted to know who this man was and why his voice trembled when he said the words, "They took my family." I didn't think nothing of it, Larry says. I thought nobody'd care. Then I woke up the next day and the phone was ringing off the hook. Reporters, producers, people wanting interviews. I ain't never had that before. I didn't even know what to say. He laughs softly, then looks down. At first I was glad. I thought maybe, finally, someone's listening. But then it started getting twisted. Folks online saying I made it up, saying I was after money. I don't even got a computer. The video sparked a wave of attention, and with it, controversy. News crews from across the state arrived, setting up cameras outside his fence. Headlines ranged from sympathetic to skeptical. "A family torn apart by bureaucracy," one read. Another called it a mountain man's tall tale. But the community stood behind him. Neighbors put signs in their yards, "We stand with Larry." The local church opened its doors for public meetings. People gathered to share stories, not just about Larry, but about their own fights with the system. One woman stands outside the church, tears in her eyes. "They did the same to my sister. Said it was temporary. Said she'd get her babies back. It's been 3 years. Another man adds quietly, "When they come for one of us, they come for all of us." Larry's just the one who said it out loud. The movement built momentum. Small-town anger turned into organized action, petitions, letters, even a protest outside the county building. Homemade posters carried messages like "Justice for the Whittakers" and "Families belong together." Through it all, Larry stayed mostly silent, watching from his porch. "It's strange," he says. "All my life I just wanted someone to hear me. Now everybody's talking and I don't even know what to say no more." His lawyer, Harris, sits beside a pile of documents, eyes red from long nights. "We filed every motion we could. Property, custody, everything. But it's like talking to a wall. Every door you knock on, they say, 'We're reviewing it.' I've been a lawyer 20 years and I've never seen this kind of runaround." There's a pause as he flips through a folder. "Somewhere, someone's hiding something?" "The paperwork doesn't just vanish unless someone wants it to." Larry nods. "That's what I've been saying all along." The deeper the journalists dug, the stranger the details became. The property wasn't simply reassigned. It had been bundled into a development project, run by a private contractor tied to multiple lawsuits. A company with ties to state officials. "Turns out that lady from Carolina," Larry says. "She wasn't just a neighbor. She worked for them. She was trying to buy up all the land around here, piece by piece. We just didn't know it." A former county employee, voice disguised, speaks off camera. "We were told not to interfere." The project had backing from the state. Certain properties were marked for acquisition, and if people didn't comply, they found other ways to move them. "What kind of ways?" the interviewer asks. "Welfare checks. Safety investigations, official channels." The implication hangs heavy in the air. Larry's face hardens, his voice quiet. "So that's what it was about all along. Not about the kids, not about safety, about land?" He picks up the deed again, the paper shaking in his hand. "They wanted it, and they figured taking my family would make me give up." A long silence. Only the sound of wind through the trees. By now, the case had gained traction beyond the county. Regional news outlets picked it up, then national ones. Some called it a story of small-town corruption. Others dismissed it as a misunderstanding fueled by social media hysteria. Larry stopped watching the coverage. "They ain't talking to me, they're talking about me. Feels like I ain't even part of my own story anymore." He looks away, eyes wet but steady. "All I ever wanted was to tell the truth. But the truth's the one thing nobody wants to hear." Despite the noise, a few journalists kept digging. One of them, a young reporter named Jordan, visited Larry every week for months. "He never asked for sympathy," she says. "He just wanted someone to listen." He had boxes of papers, old. Photographs, letters, every single thing he could find to prove his family's story. Jordan flips through one of Larry's notebooks. Every page is filled with names, dates, times, small handwriting covering every inch. He documented everything. It's like he knew they'd try to erase him. She pauses, reading aloud. A line written in faded ink. "If I don't write it down, they'll say it never happened." Larry nods when she shows it to him. "That's what they do, make you feel crazy for knowing what you saw." The documentary cuts to a community gathering in a dimly lit hall. Dozens of people sit in folding chairs, passing around photocopies of petitions. The mood is somber but determined. A local pastor stands up. "This ain't just about one man. This is about what happens when the people who are supposed to protect us forget who they work for. If we stay quiet, we're next." Applause ripples through the room. Someone in the back shouts, "We ain't giving up." Larry sits near the front, hat in hand. He doesn't speak, but the crowd turns toward him anyway. A few people nod in his direction. In their eyes, he's become a symbol, unwilling maybe, but real. Back outside, he walks to the edge of the field where survey stakes still mark the line. He kneels down, touches the ground. "They said this part ain't mine no more. Funny thing, though, it still feels like mine." The sun dips behind the ridge, painting the sky in gold and red. "I ain't asking for pity," he says, "just fairness. I want what's right, that's all." But fairness doesn't come easy in places where power hides behind paperwork. Harris, The lawyer flips through more documents. You see this? He says, pointing to a line in a contract. This company filed for the land a month before the welfare visit. That's not coincidence. He looks up. They wanted him out. And the system made it easy. The footage cuts between interviews, voices layering like echoes. A social worker speaking anonymously says she regrets being part of it. I didn't know the full story. We were told it was a safety check, but after things didn't add up, files were sealed. Case numbers disappeared. Another resident adds, they've been trying to clear this valley for years. Larry just got in the way. As the evidence builds, so does the pressure. The company issues a statement denying wrongdoing. The county calls the allegations unsubstantiated. State representatives refuse interviews, but the people don't stop talking. Every Sunday, more cars appear along the road, locals, journalists, supporters. They bring signs, food, donations. Some just come to listen. One elderly man, leaning on a cane, says softly, I don't got much, but I brought him a pie. My daddy lost his land same way back in the 70s. I know what that pain feels like. Larry smiles faintly when he hears that. People think I'm fighting for myself, but it's bigger than me now. He glances toward the camera. They took my voice once. I ain't letting them do it again. Later that night, alone on the porch, he flips through an old photo album. Pictures of his kids, his wife, his parents. The edges are worn soft from years of handling. I used to think this house was just wood and nails, he says. Now I know it's the only proof I got that we were ever here. He closes the album and looks toward the dark horizon. They can call me what they want. Liar, crazy, whatever. But they can't take away what's true. I was here, my family was here, and I ain't done fighting. The final shots of Part 3 show the valley at dawn, quiet again, mist lifting from the trees. The sound of birds returning fills the air. Larry stands at the fence line, watching the sun climb over the image. His voice echoes faintly. You can move a man off his land. You can take his name off a paper. But you can't erase what's in the ground, and you can't silence the truth forever. The camera lingers on the empty swing under the old oak tree, swaying gently in the morning breeze. It's been months since the first video went viral. And the dust has only partly settled. The cameras still come sometimes. Not as many now, but enough that Larry keeps a clean shirt hanging on the back of the door, just in case someone stops by wanting to hear the real story. He doesn't mind anymore. He's learned that every retelling gives the truth a new place to breathe. I ain't angry like I was, he says quietly. You can't carry that forever, but I still remember, every day. The morning air hums with the sound of insects and far-off trucks. The same stretch of road, the same crooked mailbox. But things have changed, maybe not on paper yet, but in spirit. The petitions and public pressure forced an internal review of the county welfare office. Files long thought missing began to resurface. Among them, a single form marked with an old case number, the one tied to Larry's family. It was unsigned. No judge's name, no authorization, no proper documentation. A ghost record. Jordan, the reporter, sits across from Larry at his kitchen table, spreading out the pages. This is what started it, she says. This paper. It never should have been valid. Larry looks at it for a long time. So you're saying all that, everything that happened, was off this? She nods. Yes, someone pushed it through anyway. He shakes his head slowly. That's how easy it is to lose everything. The investigation didn't name names, but it confirmed what Larry had said from the beginning. His land had been targeted under a development plan disguised as welfare oversight. The county issued a short statement acknowledging procedural errors, no apology, no restitution. Just words. Still, it meant something. They didn't say sorry, Larry says, but they had to admit it happened. That's more than I ever thought I'd get. Outside, a small garden has begun to take root beside the trailer. Neighbors helped him till the soil last spring. Tomatoes, beans, and a row of sunflowers reaching for the light. He laughs when asked about it. Ain't much, but it's mine. Nobody can take that from me. Word spreads that the development project has been suspended pending review. The company denies wrongdoing but quietly withdraws from the area. Survey markers vanish overnight, replaced by wild grass and quiet. For the first time in years, the valley feels still. At the local diner, the regulars talk less about the case and more about the weather, or whose dog went missing, or who's getting married next month. But every now and then someone brings Larry's name up with respect. He stood his ground, one man says between sips of coffee. Didn't matter what they called him, he never backed down? Another nods. Took a lot of heart. I don't think I could have done it. They glance toward the window where Larry's old pickup is parked outside. He's there most mornings, having the same order: eggs, biscuits, black coffee. He waves when people recognize him. Some stop to shake his hand, some just nod quietly. I never wanted to be some kind of hero, he says. I just wanted my life back. His voice trembles slightly. You know, people keep asking me what I'd say to them, the ones that did it. I thought about it a long time, and I think I'd just say, I forgive you. Not for you, but for me, I got to let it go. A pause. But that don't mean I forget. The documentary shifts to footage of Jordan walking through a courthouse hallway. Her voice recorded over the image. Larry's case became a symbol. It showed how fragile truth can be when no one's watching. But it also showed what happens when a community decides enough is enough. She smiles faintly. It started with one man and a broken piece of paper. Back at the property, a new sign stands near the fence. Hand-painted, slightly uneven letters read, Whittaker Home, established 1959. Larry says a neighbor made it for him. Said it's a reminder that what's old still matters. He walks the edge of the land, pointing out where his father's house once stood, right there. That's where the kitchen used to be. Mama's window was over there. She used to wave at me when I was out playing. He stops for a moment, looking into the distance. You can almost still see her if you squint. For a long while, he says nothing, just listens to the wind. Later, in the quiet of evening, he sits on the porch, the same place he's spoken so many times before. The light fades, the cicadas rise, and the camera lingers as he begins to speak softly. They told us they weren't taking the kids. 4 days later, they did. That's what started all this. I thought that was the end of my life. But maybe it was the start of something else. He rubs his hands together, eyes glinting in the dusk. It showed me what people can do when they stick together. Showed me I ain't alone. He looks up at the sky, the last of the sun slipping behind the ridge. I still miss them. Every day. My wife, my family, the old days. But I think maybe, just maybe, they're proud of me. A moment of silence. Then he adds, I think I finally kept my promise. Cut to footage of the old deed, now framed and hanging inside his small living room. The paper is still yellowed and fragile, but the names are clear enough. James and Mary Whittaker -1959. Below it. A new photograph, Larry, standing beside the trailer, holding a small American flag. Jordan's voice returns over the image. Larry never got everything back. The damage couldn't be undone. But what he did get was harder to take away. His name, his truth, and a place in history as the man who refused to disappear. The music swells, low, steady, resolute, cut to a shot of the valley at sunrise. Mist drifts low across the fields. A rooster crows somewhere in the distance. Larry steps out of the trailer, coffee in hand. The camera stays behind him as he walks toward the fence line. He stops, resting his hand on the wooden post. They thought this was about land, he says. It wasn't, it was about home. He takes a slow breath, the kind that sounds like peace and exhaustion at once. And home ain't just where you live. It's where your story lives too. The wind moves through the trees again. Soft and unhurried, then a final cut to black, white text fades in on screen. Dedicated to all families who fought to be heard. After a pause, one last sound, Larry's voice. Barely above a whisper, you can take the papers, the house, the land, but you can't take what's in a man's heart. Fade out. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.